Trump's chief of staff, Mark Meadows, gave a press conference to update the public on Donald Trump's coronavirus positive test and his current condition. Now, I should note that since Mark Meadows gave this press conference, Donald Trump's condition has seemed to have worsened. He was originally going to get treatment in the White House, but now we have received word that he will be airlifted to the hospital where he says he will be working out of for the next several days. That is an indication that his symptoms have gotten worse. At first, we heard he was asymptomatic. Later, we heard that he had a mild fever. After that, we heard that he actually had a fever, a serious fever, high fever, and that he was fatigued. And so we're not getting a lot of transparency from the White House, but the optics of it does not look good. And so let's go to the first video of Mark Meadows discussing Donald Trump and First Lady Melania Trump and their positive coronavirus test.
How would you describe his symptoms, and is he taking hydroxychloroquine?
Well, I'm not going to get into any particular treatment that he may or may not have. He has mild symptoms. He's in the residence now, and in true fashion, he's probably critiquing the way that I'm answering these questions. And I can tell you that a number of us will be reporting back to him.
Now, again, since that press conference, Trump's symptoms have seemed to worsen. He's actually taking experimental drugs. I don't really think someone with mild symptoms would subject themselves to an unproven, untested drug that hasn't been approved by the FDA. But nonetheless, he is taking an experimental drug in response to his positive coronavirus test.
Yeah, that's interesting to see that he's going that far, that fast, and that he's been impacted this quickly. We don't have a lot of information about the different types of cases and how they generally proceed, but the fact that he's already been airlifted to the hospital suggests that he may have a very severe case. But you add on top of that his age. You add on top of that his lifestyle, his eating habits, the lack of sleep, all those things that are impacting regular Americans who have the same type of eating habits and weight and everything else. I mean, it doesn't play out well for most of Americans. And while we may not know the specific case that he has, we know that he's in a very troublesome demographic for it. So no telling how this will play out.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely in a risky demographic when it comes to contracting the virus. We should also note, I mean, the treatment for this virus has seemed to have improved since the beginning of the pandemic. And so he's of course gonna get the absolute best treatment. There's no question about that. There have been other world leaders who have contracted this virus, right-wing people like Jair Bolsonaro, and he seems to have recovered from coronavirus. So I'm just giving you a full picture of what is likely to happen. Also, I wanted to note that Hope Hicks was reported as testing positive for coronavirus before we found out about Donald Trump and First Lady Melania Trump testing positive. I only mention that because there have been reports indicating that Hope Hicks and her condition was kept secret in order to move forward with a fundraiser that was held for Donald Trump's re-election campaign. Mark Meadows was asked about that. Let's hear what he had to say.
What day and time did you find out that Hope Hicks had tested positive, and did you sit on it until after the president went out to his fundraiser in New Jersey?
Actually, as we look at this, I'm not going to get into the TikTok. I can tell you in terms of Hope Hicks, we discovered that right as the Marine One was taking off yesterday.
So he was downplaying that. I don't know what the truth is. What I do know is that when it comes to anything that helps Donald Trump with his re-election campaign, they'll squash any worries or concerns regarding coronavirus. I mean, we've seen Trump hold indoor rallies during this pandemic. He did it in Tulsa, Oklahoma. That was the first place he did it. Masks were not mandatory. They weren't even really encouraged. Donald Trump had said multiple times, including during an interview with the Wall Street Journal, that he believed that people would wear masks to make him look bad. The way this man thinks is always about putting himself first and how certain activities of others would make him look. It's not about governing properly or keeping people safe. He doesn't really care about how much of a national security risk this has been, doesn't care about how many people have died. Downplaying it and ensuring that people don't panic was more about ensuring that the markets aren't rattled by the pandemic rather than ensuring that people don't get scared. And so we've seen over and over again how these missteps have unfortunately led to hundreds of thousands of Americans dying. And also there are other Republicans who are now reporting that they're testing positive for coronavirus. For instance, RNC Chair Ronna McDaniel was reported to have tested positive for COVID-19. Let me give you some details on that. Spokesperson for the RNC told The Hill, after a member of her family tested positive for COVID-19, the chairwoman was tested for the virus. On Wednesday afternoon, she got confirmation she was COVID-19 positive. She has been at her home in Michigan since last Saturday. Others who have been in close contact with the president have tested negative, including his Supreme Court nominee, Amy Coney Barrett, as well as daughter Ivanka Trump and her husband, Jared Kushner, both senior White House advisors. But we did get word that there are other people who have been in close contact with Donald Trump who have tested positive for coronavirus. We don't know who yet. Those names are going to be released, I'm guessing, throughout the day in the coming days. But keep in mind that there have also been, reporters in the White House press pool who have been in close contact with Donald Trump and other administration officials. So people who are worried are justified in being worried, and it didn't have to play out this way. All of this was preventable, all of it.
The one thing that I'm concerned about is the incubation period, right? They may not be testing positive right now, but I think what we're saying 2 weeks to 21 days in some cases for it to actually show up, which really brings me back to Joe Biden. I know he currently is testing negative, which is great. We hope that it remains that way. But for people who got those immediate tests, I hope that there's a succession of tests that take place to make sure that they don't become a vector, because it's just, Donald Trump is a super spreader. His events were super spreader events, right? His press corps, it's very possible that he and his staff have spread this so far and wide that I think it is a major concern at this point for everyone to continue to get testing while they're in that incubation period.
Yeah, absolutely. He just held a rally in Minnesota this week. I can't remember if it was an indoor or outdoor rally. We'll get some confirmation on that. But I do know that there were a ton of people there, cheering him on. Many of them were not wearing masks, whether it was indoor or outdoors. The truth is, if you're in close contact with people who have this virus but are not wearing masks, you can contract it. And so again, it goes back to the fact that he felt the need to politicize things that did not need to be politicized. Wearing a mask doesn't make you look bad. In fact, it makes you look like a competent leader who's interested in keeping the public safe. He did the opposite of that. We shut down the country, and like 2 weeks later, he's encouraging the entire country to reopen by Easter. And we hadn't even had access to widespread testing at that point. We've never done testing and tracing, which is what successful countries have done. He has bungled this from the very beginning. And again, innocent people have died as a result of that. That is the heart of this story. Make no mistake about it.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.